What's going on? It's the Men in the Mix podcast. I'm Coach Tuck,
And I'm Dr. Ron.
It's Cecil.
and it's about to go down. What's good, everybody? What's good?
Woo, been doing good. It's been a wild season. Summer is flying by, don't you all think?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Especially getting ready for a new school year. So you already know what that is, man. It's pandemonium right now. But today is a special day. I get to introduce someone that I consider a friend, a mentor, someone is setting the world on blaze, doing a lot of great things. And what's so special and amazing about this individual is he has so much. He is so humble and has so much humility and wanting to help others uh, come up together. And his name is Dr. Reginald Parker. So, so real quick, right off the bat, I met Dr. Reginald Parker when I was at University of North Dakota. We was actually going at the same church, Gospel Outreach, in East Grand Forks, or was it Grand Forks?
Grand Forks.
Grand Forks, North Dakota. And so I never forget him speaking to a group of men about a goal and a vision he had. And from that moment on, I've been able to call him a friend. He is the founder, president, and CEO of Optimal Corporation, Inc., which is the best way of saying, what's the best way? A green energy company? Is that, or is this a better way of saying that, Dr. Reginald Parker?
Energy management as a service provider.
Love it. Energy management as a service. So right off the bat, love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself to the viewers and the listeners.
If anybody asks you who I am, tell them I'm a man of God.
Hey, there you go.
And that's the heart and root from which I come from. I was raised in Savannah, Georgia. I did a lot of church. I got to know God. And, I used to say, I got a PhD in chemical engineering, but I know a little bit more about the Bible. Knowing science is good because that helps you to understand the world that you're in, but it doesn't help you to know how to live it. And I wanted to have precepts for which will guide me as a person, a man, a husband, a father. And so, at the end of the day, I benchmark myself based on, if I were to die today or tomorrow, what legacy do I leave? Not only myself, my family, but my God.
Amen. Awesome. Amen. Praise God. Amen to that. And I brought up your company, Optimal Tech, and just wonder if you can kind of give us a little bit of understanding of what that is and what some of the things that you offer in the community.
We have a two-sided company. On one side, we look at how you use energy. A lot of big companies have what you call an energy manager or facility manager, and really good at helping companies right-size the amount of energy they use. And they bring the cost of energy down to its bare minimum by, keeping the right type of lights and things of that nature. That person usually costs $80,000 a year. Most people have a need for an energy manager, but they don't have a budget. So what I'm doing is using AI, ML, and other strategic resources, as well as a team that will knock your socks off to pull that together so that the average person, the average business person, the small, the medium-sized building owner, the person who has a house, bring those sources and resources to them so that they can right-size the amount of energy. We've helped some of our clients cut 40% out of their energy spend. There's a couple that we're going to be able to get up to 70%. And once you get to that particular point, I call that using energy better. Then I come with the solar, and then I help them to use better energy. So, the way we say that we got a two-sided coin. You can't lose with the stuff we use.
Nice.
Man, amen.
So, Dr. Parker, you talk about using better energy. So, aside from the money saving, it sounds like you're really advocating to help clients sort of financially, but is there also that area of this is a preferred energy in terms of its sustainability, it's renewable? Maybe tell us a little bit more about that, because this sometimes people hear green energy, they don't really know what it really is. So maybe you can break it down for us.
First thing I say is this: an electron don't know who his daddy is.
That way,
That's good.
And so, since you don't, but you can look at the electron and see, what kind of electron is it? Is it one that was generated by, polluting the air, or was it generated to save the planet? And any right-sized mind person want an electron that's going to help save the planet, save jobs, save money. If it could do all three, why not? And so, what green energy is, or solar is a way of generating electricity without generating carbon dioxide, which is one of the greenhouse gases that's destroying the atmosphere. And CNN just reported that climate scientists and experts said we have 0 years to make a difference, or else we will increase in our temperature. Not 1 year, not 2 years. This is the year. And so that's the reason I call it better energy.
Nice.
Wow. Well, thank you for that description. It definitely does, for me, raise the alarm on what we need to be doing. That's for sure.
But I'm biased. I always tell people my electrons are better than yours.
Hey, I like that. So, Dr. Reginald Parker, man, just thank you so much for being on. There's something that you kind of herald and saying one of your missions is ending energy poverty. Yes. Now, that's a revolutionary thought process, and I really would like for you to kind of unpack that for us, if you would.
Now, Jesus said, "The poor you will have with you always." So I'm not trying to end poverty, because that's something I can't. But one of the things that research has shown us is that a country's GDP per person is 81% correlated to its energy use per person. So countries that have higher access and usage of energy have higher access to GDP. Likewise, countries that are energy poor are also poor.
Wow.
81%. McKinsey has shown it. Other organizations have shown it. So I can get at energy poverty. There's 1.1 billion people on the planet who have no access to energy. They are energy poor, right? 600 million of them live in sub-Saharan Africa.
Wow.
Another 300 plus million live in Southeast Asia. And the rest of them are in Latinx countries. And so these are people who are bearing the brunt of climate change, and they didn't even cause it. They don't have electricity.
Wow.
So think about healthcare. Think about schools. Think about being able to cook, running water, and all of the health disparities and human costs of not having electricity. They're living in the 1850s, and we're living in 2021.
Wow. The question I keep thinking, and I don't want to assume, what is our representation strong in solar and green energy right now as a Black community, or are we still not putting an emphasis on it yet?
The thing is that a lot of the companies that are in renewable space, when they go to majority neighborhoods and areas, they get more funding.
Wow.
If you were a founder, an entrepreneur, and you were to go to a venture capitalist and say, I want to take this and deploy it in underserved communities, they would, pretty much say, not with my money.
Wow. Now, why is that again? So for the viewers and listeners to hear that one more time.
The thing is that a lot of people discount the financial capacity and capability of what we call BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color. Whereas, the 13th largest economic power in the world are African Americans.
Wow.
They're the same number of people as Canada and actually have more economic power than Canada. But for some reason, they're not taken seriously.
Mm. Wow.
Well, we can sell them Schlitz-Malt liquor, but don't give them solar.
Man,
What is some
put a coal ash pond next to them, bury some nuclear rods. That's okay, but a windmill, I'm not sure.
Interesting.
That is, and and what you're saying, it's very, thinking about the state of things, it's very concerning to me. And one of the questions I want to ask you is, and maybe this is part of the work you do, is in what way do we sort of create opportunities to bring peoples of color to the table here in the U.S.? So what ways are we doing that? Strategies that you've seen either from your company or for other partners?
One of the things I'm doing is using my platform, building my platform, and putting the word out. I developed the first African American utility solar project in the country. It's over 5 football fields in scale. All right. We still own it and we still use it. Right. A hurricane came through North Carolina 3 years ago, shut off all the power. But the solar farm was still running. Dominion called me and said, can we turn on your farm so that we can pump power to the people? I said, power to the people.
Amen.
So what I'm getting at is that the first thing is you have to use your platform. Second, I joined Van Jones' Dream Corp. He has an organization called Green for All, and I'm on their business council. So we use that platform, Van Jones's platform, to talk to legislators as well as other business leaders to push that. And the last one is this organization called BOSS, Black Operators and for Solar Solutions. And with BOSS, all of the Blacks that we know that are in solar are joining that organization and pushing the agenda and doing work amongst ourselves to increase the number of people who know how to do renewable energy projects.
Awesome.
Wow.
And
exciting work I see going on there.
And so what I want to ask you is, we're so excited to have you on the show because this is going to we want to use what you do to connect to the next generation and up and coming entrepreneurs who see what you do and may be jump started with excitement, and it might even be something that they already dreamed about doing. So to connect, what would you say to somebody who is an up and coming, someone who wants to start a business in green energy, or wants to be an entrepreneur in that type of realm? What kind of ins and outs would you give them in starting up?
Look, here's the God honest truth. My mom and I, when I was in high school, we lived on less than $500 a month.
Whew.
All right. Wow. Abject poverty. I applied and I got into MIT. And so then they showed me the bill, $20,450 for the first year. I like, and so I said, good googly moogly. And I went to pray. And I got financial aid, I got scholarships, I got awards, and that was the only college that I actually could afford.
Wow.
I got into Howard, I got into FAMU, FSU, I got into Georgia Tech, but the only one that came together so that I could afford it was MIT.
Wow.
And so that story showed me that the hardest thing sometimes becomes easier when one, you pray, and two, you set your mind to it. Me getting to MIT came as a result of me doing the work when I was in high school. So you got to do the work. I call that doing the natural. When you do the natural, God can put his super on top of it. The God don't do natural, he does super. He does supernatural. So you got to do your natural. All right. So if you're going to do entrepreneurship and you're going to get into, you got to do all your natural. You got to see, is there a customer? Is there a customer need? And also, do you have a solution that the customer needs? And then if you are able to do that and put together a business plan, God can put his super on top of your natural, but you got to do the natural.
That's great.
You know,
Thank you.
this is the thing that I just want to just ask you, because I love that you're talking about the word. And with your being in a field where you're one of the leaders, especially for the minority community, how do you handle the pressure? And when I say this for the viewers and listeners, I'm saying this because, not to just toot his horn, but just to have you to understand, the more you start to do things and the more successful you do, I don't know, for you, do you feel like it's a heavier coat? So I'm finna go through a couple of things. 2020, just 2021, you are one of the 30 black founders in the USA to watch in 2021. Your company is a top 40 innovative technology company in Georgia. Game-changing founder of color. You Green for All Business Counseling Founding member. And then we're not even going to get started in 2020, where you was part of the Microsoft for startups, Airtable for startups. We can go on and on. And then MIT Black graduating class keynote speaker. So with everything you do and you get more successful and you do more things, how do you handle that? Do you feel that pressure, or how do you handle it, knowing that you got more eyes looking at you, and the more successful you have, you're going to have more people watching you to fail? How do you handle that?
I'm raising 3 queens and a king. I'm not raising children. They're already children. I'm raising men and women. And in raising them, I got to show them carte blanche what success can look like, what it looks like. I bring them around people like you guys so that they get used to seeing who they are and who they can be, and how to walk among kings, queens, and the people. So no, there's no pressure here, because this is me being the example that I need them to become. I can't allow, my head to get big, because it ain't about me, but it's all about me. You understand what I'm saying there?
Got you. Yeah, I do.
It's about God, but God turned around and saying, but it's about what you're going to do for me.
Right.
And so I'm not doing this for my own recognition. When these things come, I can then quickly say, I came from $450 a month, and I'm here.
Yes.
And why I am here is not because of me.
Amen.
So I can't get a big head. Can't.
Gotcha.
Well, my wife said I got one, but I say, look at yours, dear.
You know,
Oh man,
I think one thing that you really sort of focus on this idea of like how one might be perceived in all this, and I think there's a time, and maybe you can help us and our listeners go through this, that big energy, call them big energy companies and suppliers might have ignored or not even considered smaller startups like you as really like competition or someone to listen to. But it sounds like, and help me, given where we're at today with everything going on in our world, that companies like yours, they're probably taking a very different look at with regard to need for partnership, need to consider the role in which both smaller energy companies generally, but specifically Black-owned energy companies and other companies within this field. So maybe speak to more about that landscape.
I'm going to ask you guys a quick question. Have y'all seen F-150, the Lightning that's coming out?
Yes.
That car that can actually your house running for 3 days because that's just how much electricity it has.
Oh my
A
goodness.
lot of people haven't thought about what the effective cost of electricity for that vehicle is, or the effective cost of gas. It takes something that's like $3 a gallon down to 25 cents a gallon effective. Okay, so nobody's talking about that. So now you need to charge it up. Where are you going to go to charge it up? The current infrastructure for because of the utilities, they're not ready for it. They need to build EV charging stations all over the place. They call them e-stations, not gas stations, but e-stations. And
Right.
they're going to need help doing that. And so there's an organization run by an African American out of South LA named Kidget. Kidget is partnered with us. We will build the EV microgrid. He will build the EV chargers. And we're
Wow.
going to be building that up and down California. So the utilities need Kidget and us to help them build these things.
There's no
That's
ignoring you.
amazing. That is
So
amazing.
I started with Ford because Ford has said by 2030, all of its vehicles will be electric. By
Whoa.
2035, all vehicles in the US will be electric.
Wow.
So they realize how much is coming. And if they're concentrating on building cars, and a utility needs to upgrade and learn and do all of these things, that creates a huge infrastructure play where folks like me can come in and do what we do. Um, my solar module compared to other solar modules, it takes the average solar module 3 weeks to install 1 megawatt. We do it in a day. And then we need 3 acres versus their 5.
Wow.
And every megawatt we produce, we're able to produce 50% more kilowatt hours. So,
wow.
what we have, if you're a forward-facing military base and you need 1 megawatt, we got it to you by tomorrow, not by the end of the month. So
Wow.
there's just, certain things that, they ignore us, but, there's certain things that, you can't ignore.
Nice. Amen.
That is awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Well,
Encouraging.
we just got a few more questions because for the listeners, they don't understand. Dr. Reginald Parker, it is 10:36 his time, so it's pretty late his time. So we want to kind of wrap up the show a little bit so he can get his sleep because his days are always busy. So I would probably say my last question is, why is it important that we have this Black representation being acknowledged, right? Why we should be putting a focus on it right now, so especially what's going on in our society outside of athletics and entertainment.
The truth cannot be ignored. For far too long, um, this country has promulgated a falsehood that capability comes in a skin tone.
Yeah.
the phrase comes that capability doesn't know zip code, opportunities do. Meaning that you have some folks who have great talent that may not look like Mark Zuckerberg, may not look like Bill Gates, may not look like Steve Jobs. They're women, they're minorities, they're Black, Latino, they're short, they're tall, they're whatever, right? They don't look like Silicon Valley favorites. They're not Elon Musk. And by these money players ignoring us for so long, they've lost trillions of dollars. A lot of universities and military bases, researchers are no longer all American. And so if you don't make the investments in the African Americans, in the Latino Americans, that has a huge risk for one, economic prosperity, two, national security, and three, just the viability and fabric of who we are and who we're becoming. As a country, we're becoming more and more minority. And it's going to be harder and harder to ignore that fact. One of the things that hurt my heart the most, you look at the demographics of teachers, and then you look at the pension funds, and then who gets those pension funds? You know, venture capitalists out of California, and they deploy it 1%, less than 1% to African Americans, where the pension funds are 30% African Americans. They do it 2% to women, where the pension funds are 60% women.
Wow.
I call that robbery and thievery. When you take out of one neighborhood and put it into another, that's reverse Robin Hood. You can't continue to do that and think that it's going to be okay and there will be no problems.
Mm.
Right.
So what we saw happen last summer was a part of I'm tired of that.
Right.
We are all forced to sit home. And then what most people forget is that first there was a man, he was sitting in a park, bird watching in Manhattan, in Central Park. And a woman tried to use the police against him when she was illegally letting her dog walk. Then right after that, in Minnesota, Minneapolis, some gentlemen who were in the building and they were working in the building. They were young African Americans, went down to work out, and a VC says, "Prove that you work here." And there was a big, and then right after that, this is Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday, George Floyd gets. Who can stand that type of activity when day after day after day, and you're forced to watch it on TV? It was just too much. And it was undeniable.
Yeah.
You can't say, well, we got to wait till all the facts. When you watch for 7.5 minutes, all of the facts you needed to see.
Gotcha.
And you watch day after day, all of the facts you needed to see. You couldn't pass it by anymore. Tamir Rice, you couldn't pass it by anymore. The names go on. I'm not going to go through the names. And so it became undeniable. And it will continue to be undeniable until we make the right infrastructure investments throughout all of America. Then we will see the promise of who this country can be.
Awesome. Awesome.
That's good.
Powerful. So I think you really, in saying that, provide a nice lead up to the question I want to ask. Is that one thing that I share? I'm an educator. I share it with students. When things might look grim and can be very, very, daunting. Like, what do we do? But having hope is important. And so, thinking 50 years from now, Dr. Parker, with the work you're doing, if you would imagine, like, what kind of things do you see in terms of where do you see us going? with regard to all the situations, where do you hope to see African American communities with regard to energy? Where do you see us? Where do you hope to be as we think about a future that is, pardon the pun, hopefully much brighter than what we've seen in the past?
I grew up understanding that hope is earnest expectation. It's something that you can expect to happen. So you're saying, one of the things that, I see is a society that's going to be more levelized. That's going to, meaning that technology will be the great leveler. When all of us are competing against a robot for a job, that's a great levelizer. When the majority of a country, it was the minority 50 years ago, that's going to be a great levelizer. The way that our kids think about the world, and their kids are going to think about the world and the world they're going to live in, it will be one where, my son said, how about if I make a car that costs $1,000 and everybody can afford a car? That would be a good thing, Daddy.
Yes, it would.
I said, that's great, my son, and I love that, but you got to eat. But these kids don't think like we did.
True.
So my hope, my earnest expectation is in a new generation that think about people and the world much better.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Reginald Parker, we want to thank you so much for being on this show. I know you're very busy, and like I said, it's really late on the East Coast, but we appreciate you so much, and we're going to definitely be continuing to make sure that we're finding ways to continue to bring voices out there to the listeners and the viewers to understand people are doing some great things, and we need to make sure that we are supporting those individuals.
Amen.
So thank you to the listeners. Thank you to the viewers. As always, you can check us out on Facebook, on Hotmail. Also, we're going to be putting up information through our podcast and Facebook, YouTube about what Dr. Reginald Parker is doing. And if you're interested in anything that he's doing and want to be a part of it, we will have contact information for you all to get on that. Also, Patreon. Don't forget about Patreon. We want to keep putting good shows out. So we need your support. And as always, stay blessed. We love you. And we are out.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Take care. My pleasure.